Yes, one power. And you're it. And so am I, and so it is. There's only one power, and that power is life. Join me in this opening treatment. There is one power, one light, one life, and it is present in us, as us, through us. We live in it, it lives in us, and we live in our awareness a greater, richer, fuller life as a result. So it opens us to ourselves today as we go deeper into the truth. So let it be, and so it is. So welcome. It's good to have you all here. I'm glad to be home. I missed you guys last week. I'll tell you a little later what I was doing about this time last week, and you'll be totally jealous. So, but for today, I want to tell you the reason we're here. We're here because we are a place in consciousness and in reality and physicality where one idea, one power, one light, one life comes forward again and again and again. We teach it in all shapes and sizes. We teach it in all kinds of ways. And we recognize that whoever you are an expression of that power. Whatever your background, whatever your race, whatever your joy, whatever your sorrow, whatever has gone on in your life up until now, you're an expression of the infinite. And we're so glad that you choose to be here to be recognized. We don't tolerate people. We don't even accept people. We celebrate people, whoever you are and however you have chosen to show up until this point. So I'm very happy to see you. I'm very glad you're here. And I invite you to join us as we celebrate. If you're new, if you're here for the first time, we give you a special welcome. We will not ask you to stand. We won't embarrass you, but we'll tell you that afterwards, I'll probably tackle you on the way out. But I am available to you to answer any questions or to just get to meet you, get to know you, and see who you are, because that's what we're about. So thank you. Thank you for being here. To have a better idea of who we are and what we're about, let's read together what we teach. And that is a basic principle, or set of principles, that our founder, Ernest Holmes, put together in kind of a short time, getting ready for a radio talk, and back in the day. And we have it printed here on the card, so if you'd like to join me by stand and sing, I stand and sing. Yeah, right. I know better. Stand and read. Here we go. I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal love and kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all. Thank you. So each week we hear from one of our, the foundation of this center is not the minister. I hate to admit that, but it isn't. The foundation, what this center is built on, are the practitioners. These are the folks who understand this teaching, who have been trained in this teaching, who are licensed to do the work of the prayer work, the spiritual work for themselves and for you, and have demonstrated the ability to do that. So they are here for you always to answer questions, to sit with you and know something better, get a better idea about your life, and to support you in creating a better life. So each week we have one of them come forward and share something with you and invite you and then do a longer and more focused spiritual mind treatment with you. Today we have one of our co-leaders of the practitioners, Doug Moody, to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Bob, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. This is our last Sunday in February, where we've been talking about the many colors of love has been our topic. And I'm especially excited because I can't wait to hear Dr. Bob Deen talk about sacred sexuality, because there's not a whole lot written about it, especially in our Science of Mind text. There's no chapter in there on sexuality. And when I was kind of thinking about this past week, what am I going to say? The question that kept coming up for me was, well, what would Ernest Holmes say? I knew what Kennedy Schultz said, and it was a title of his talk from, I think it was about 1995, and it was, "Oh God, oh God, oh God." I think Dr. Bob's going to get into that one. But, I think the reality is in 1927, when our Science of Mind text was published, sex and sexuality was just something that most people did not feel very comfortable talking about, much less writing about. And so I think, fast forward to 100 years later, almost to 2020, here we are, and we've got a lot more conversations and materials and things about it. But so when I dug deeper, I realized, in fact, Ernest Holmes did say some things that I think pertain especially to sexuality and sacred sexuality. And the number one thing I went back to was his quote that love is the greatest power in the universe, and it's the basis and source of everything. And so that for me was kind of my foundation in thinking about this topic of sacred sexuality. And I found another quote from a book of writings called Ideas That Make a Difference, on page 53 of that book, where Ernest Holmes says that life is not only where we are, it is what we are. It is in as well as around us, and it's where impulsion is love. The universe does rest on the shoulders of love. Love is the real lodestone of life. So there are a couple of terms in there, and I thought, wow, those are like either words that I haven't heard in a long time or that aren't really used that frequently. And the first one was impulsion. And that is, the root of that word is actually impulse. A strong urge to do something, the force or motive behind an action or process. So I thought, okay, impulsion. The second word was lodestone. I was like, I don't think I've ever heard that word. It was actually a popular term from like 1900 to 1950, according to Webster's dictionary. And it's like, okay, so the Science of Mind text was kind of written right in the middle of that time span. But lodestone is a word that refers to a piece of magnetized mineral or rock able to be used as a magnet. It's a thing that is the force of attention or attraction. So, in other words, I think what Holmes is saying in these quotes is we have to follow our hearts. We have to let our hearts be our guide and how we express ourselves. Our sexuality is a creative process. It's an individualized journey. It's uniquely expressed and experienced by each and every one of us, and no two of them are ever alike. So I think because of that especially, and we've probably all had that experience, we have to follow our hearts, and we have to let love be our guide. Just as in any other creative process, be it job or career, or creating a financial wealth that we desire in our lives, we have to let love be that guiding light too. And that brought me back to, in my second year of practitioner training, Reverend Christina Tillotson, who was my instructor, used to always say, love points the way, law makes it possible. And that's the crux of our teaching. Love points the way, and the law, deferring to the law, releasing that love into the law, brings it all about just as we desire. Sometimes we may not recognize it at first, but if we're open to it and allow ourselves to grow in the journey, we discover something about ourselves that we never realized or knew before. So I say let love be your compass in guiding you in this most personal and pleasurable journey. And now I'm going to ask you to join me in affirmative prayer. This is a time where I'm going to share with you a prayer and speak in first person. And I'm going to ask you to be open and receptive and accept what resonates with you. And what doesn't resonate with you, you can just kind of let that go too. But get comfortable in your seats. Uncross your arms and legs and limbs. Just be open and know you're in a safe place. And know this with me. There is one infinite power, one source of divine wisdom, one cosmic something that is operating throughout the universe and operating through me and each person present right now and always. And I and each are one with this infinite power because it is always within. I never have to go anywhere else because it is always within me. This power, this wisdom, this divine intelligence is never outside of me. I always call it forth from within. And when I recognize that, I am one with all of creation. And I am empowered to create the life I desire. And today, I claim divine love, divine wisdom, divine courage, and understanding guiding me in each. As we reflect and as we think about ways that we can expand our own personal relationships and our own personal sacred sexuality. I'm open and receptive, knowing that at the center of all is love. And that love is my center too, and I let that go out into the world. I let that be the message that resonates from me to everyone that I encounter. And I realize the sacredness in this connection of love. I know that love is an infinite supply. It is always flowing to and through my heart and my mind. It is up to me to choose how I want to share and let that love radiate out into the world. And I say, I let love flow freely and fearlessly from me out into the world. And it is beautiful when I and each allow that to happen. This is my truth. I am grateful for this teaching, for this beautiful center, for our minister, Reverend Bob Deen, for all of our wonderful support staff, the incredible practitioners that are here, the incredible community and congregation that we have established and that we are growing. It is all wonderful, and it is all built on the foundation of love. Love that we share and give freely with and amongst each other into the world. And knowing this, my heart is overflowing with joy and gratitude. For it is all wonderful and it is all God. And I simply release my word into the universal law, knowing it is done. And let it be so. And it is wonderful, and so are you, and so it is. So I found this piece of music, and it was interesting in working on the digital music for this Sunday. As I was explaining, talked about Deen, some of the songs are not quite on cue with what we're messaging here now, and especially when you start watching the videos. So it was interesting. It kind of forced me to go back in time a little bit to the 70s and the 80s and even like the 1990s. But the song that I picked, that I selected and encouraged, and that Dr. Bob liked for this portion of the program, it's just a very beautiful, simple melody. And it talks about love and how love really doesn't need words. It's something that we express through our actions. And so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you just by saying I love you. That does a lot, huh? Well, I told you I would tell you. Are you hearing me? there I am. Okay, so this time last week, I was about 8,500 feet above sea level. It was about 20 degrees. I was staying with friends in a 115-year-old house. Actually, it's my Denver family. And someday I'll tell you the whole story about my relationship with Reverend Julie Lovato, who was born in the same hospital as my daughter about a month before. And her husband Tony and all of that. It's a long story. We won't do that now. But I was at their home up in the mountains above Denver, Colorado. Beautiful place. This big valley next to it. A fishing lake in their front yard that people pay $500 a day to fish in. Can you believe it? But that's not the point. The point is, I was there. I put on my bathing suit and some slippers. So kind of get the feel of this here, 20 degrees. And a robe. I was grateful for that spiritual. I got a robe, you got a robe. I needed a robe because it was cold. And I put on my slippers and I put on my robe and I walked out into 2.5 feet of snow and I went down this little trail in the middle of it up behind their house to a gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful hot tub. It was frigid out there. And I couldn't go fast enough to get into that hot tub. I tried to figure out if I could have two robes, one to wear into the hot tub and another dry one to wear out, but they only had one. So anyway, I went in and it was wonderful. I settled down into that hot water and I'm looking out across the snow-covered mountainside at the lake, which is frozen solid. I'm looking up at a blue sky with no clouds anywhere. Getting some good Colorado sun and just feeling all of that. You get a sense of that? Can you create a bit of an image of that in your mind? Wow, it was so wonderful. I just stayed out there about 2.5, 3 hours because I want to get out in the cold and come back in. But I did finally, because I was roasted enough that I could keep my warmth and temperature till I could get back to the house. And that was the beginning of my trip to Colorado. I thought as I was sitting there, and the three of us were in the hot tub, and we all in our bathing suits, in case there's any question. And I realized that not many years ago, we would not have been able to do that all together. It would have been absolutely horrendous in the mind of people for men and women to be even swimming together, much less in a hot tub together. When I first went off to camp, when I was a kid, they made the men and the women, the boys and the girls, swim at different times of day so we wouldn't be tempted by each other. Little did they know that didn't apply to me. However, it was really, really another time, another world. See, I think we have, as in human development and human consciousness, as we're going from where we were to where we're going, we have really come full face against this idea that there is good and there's evil, that there are two powers, that some of what is available in life is at the level of truth and goodness, but also the old idea that there was a spiritual level of evil. And sexuality was one of those things that qualified in that. I grew up in a very, very conservative area where women were expected to stay home when they started showing and not come to church of all places. Never understood that. What? Yeah, imagine that. See, we have all of this stuff built into sexuality that's all about good and evil, all about right and wrong, as if there's something basically wrong about the most basic human experience and expression of energy, which is our sexuality. We are creative beings. And as creative beings, sexual energy is that basic aspect of us that wants to express itself on the physical plane. It's rich, it's wonderful, it's powerful. And it's all tied into this whole idea of pleasure. I had lots of pleasure sitting in that hot tub. I enjoyed the conversation. We did treatment for you guys, by the way, from the hot tub, for a wonderful morning and for a good talk and for an opportunity for growth. We did treatment for friends that we knew of who were in pain. So that combination of the physical pleasure and the mental pleasure of finding a place where pleasure is okay. One of the great things about this teaching when I got here was someone told me that everything is sacred. Actually, it was the person up front speaking. And I went, what? How's that possible? Everything is sacred? Even sexuality? See, one of the things that we don't do in this teaching of oneness is separate things between sacred and not sacred. Now, we sometimes use that term sacred to imply that we're really talking about something special here, but the truth is, they aren't separate things. Everything is sacred and everything is secular at the same time. So there's not some specialness. You don't get to be more holy because you're here. You get to be more practiced and more aware and more full of an awareness of the goodness of the oneness. But you can, fishing is a good way to meditate. It's a good way to be out on the side of a riverbank and feel and taste and touch and see and imagine what you're going to do when you eat that fish you catch. All of that stuff is sensual and it's pleasurable and it's part of the goodness of God. Part of the goodness of you. Part of the goodness of life. So we have a distorted idea of pleasure sometimes. We think of it as sinful. I first heard here that desire is a good thing because it's the impulse of spirit. It's the impulse of life moving through you and desiring to express itself. Wow. Yeah. So, see, sometimes we think we have to qualify this distinctive thing about pleasure in a way that makes it okay. It is definitely true that the impulse for truth, the impulse for life, the impulse that moves through us only really can be good and powerful and wonderful if it harms no one and it brings greater livingness and greater life to us. See, the problem with sexuality is we have so long held these us and thems. We've made it be about power instead of about love. We've made it be about domination. And so many people are wounded by the practice of it. Probably so have you. I've certainly had my wounds around that. It wasn't even legal for me to love the way I loved for most of my life. It had to be in secret. I lost a job here as a chaplain, which I went to work at one of our hospitals in order to work with people with HIV. And they hired me. They were happy to have me until they found out I was gay. And then somehow that designation of my sexuality made it wrong and I was fired. We have so many twisted, distorted ideas about sexuality coming out of our pain and our hurt. And when that's there, it needs to be healed. It needs to be awakened. You need support. I need support, needed support around it. Because it's gotten so twisted in the idea that it's about power or that it is about dominance or control instead of being about love. Fully, freely, joyfully expressed, fully, freely, and joyfully received in a loving, rich, and powerful physical way, as well as all the others. It's a good thing when it's coming through that way, when we're experiencing. And when we've done enough of our own work to heal those old ideas and wounds that would attach to that beautiful, free free and loving experience of sacred sexuality, secular sexuality, real sexuality that is about the expression of love. See, we are all about, in this teaching, learning ways to practice the awareness of who we really are, and finding ways to practice the truth of ourselves, to enhance the experience of oneness, that one power, that love, that goodness that is ours. So, the practice here is a practice of embracing pleasure and embracing love and embracing the respectful, joyful, free expression of love in whatever way makes sense for you. Embracing the pleasure of a good meal. Chocolate. More chocolate. Now we're finding out it's healthy. It's prepared properly. Isn't that cool? Gratitude. The pleasure of gratitude. Imagine yourself walking through a whole day and being grateful for every part of it. Being grateful that the ground holds you up and the gravity keeps you connected to the earth. Grateful for the people who do the simplest things for us and in our interactions with each other. The person that brings the food to your table, the person that prepares things, the person that shows up at the grocery store to allow you to pay for your items, the person that shows up at Walmart or anywhere else that you may go that says thank you and gives you eye contact for a moment. Huge gratitude in that. The pleasure of feeling that instead of getting caught up in all that other stuff about how big a hurry we're in, what else we're doing, what's wrong with the way we're being taken care of, blah, 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 blah. So that we begin to practice the pleasure and depth of gratitude. We practice the pleasure of conversation with a friend. You know, with a good friend, it almost doesn't matter what you're talking about, right? We're talking about everything under the sun sitting out in that hot tub. Because we were under the sun. So are you. There's pleasure in that. Allow yourself to really feel the pleasure of just being with a friend. Because the more we enhance and practice our oneness in life, the freer we'll be. And the more it expands, what we pay attention to expands. It goes greater, it gets bigger. The pleasure of creating a beautiful living space. Whether it's your home or the place you're renting or where you go. First time I heard this, I was visiting at Solomar, which is a big conference center on the coast of California. Beautiful space, wonderful space, and I was saying, man, I wish I owned all this. I wish I could be here and have part of it as something I can count on all the time. My teacher said, you know what? You do own it. If you're here and you're in it and you're participating and you're enjoying it, it's yours. And you got 500 staff members waiting on you. That's pretty cool. And it will be here anytime you want it, or this, or something better. And you can find the way that you have participated, and you don't have to own it and collect it and hold it in order to enjoy it. In fact, what you have to do, what I have to do, is release it and free it and embrace it and love it. And let the energy flow and create with it. Because there is no lack. There is no limitation. There's only one power. And so we're free to express and experience that. It's part of practicing pleasure. Pleasure principle, the Freudians talk about. Same idea. So we create this beautiful space and the pleasure of sharing physically with another person. That we feel connected to and that we have love for and that they have love for us and are choosing to participate with us. And pleasure with our own bodies. You know how to take care of your body in a way that is pleasurable. Hot tubs are one of them. I won't go into details on the others because you're all grown-ups, right? Well, unless we got some other folks who know already rolling their eyes at the old wives. And that's good. See, it's a good thing. And it comes otherwise when you make it guilty. Now there's another way that we can find pleasure, and that's mindfulness. The mindfulness of just being aware. We have so many things in our lives that invite us to not be aware, to not pay attention, to not connect with what's going on around us. So I'm going to invite you to join me, if you will, if you'd like to, in a mindfulness exercise. You all have an orange. Well, you maybe all have an orange. Many of you have an orange. Anyone need an orange besides me? I brought me and I left my orange. And you can participate in this to whatever degree or extent you'd like to. But I want to invite you to be mindful, to get this idea that pleasure is a good thing and not a bad thing. Anyone else need an orange? You probably want napkins too.
I ate mine already.
Well, get another one. This is an abundant universe. There's plenty to go around and more. In fact, when we were done, you can take a few home with you out there because I overdid it when I bought them. I always think of this place as full, so I bought enough oranges to just about fill it up. So please feel free to enjoy them. So close your eyes, because sometimes you can connect better and just feel what that orange feels like. Think about it. Let all of your attention go to your fingers. You're divine beings who are part of the creation of all of this. And so you feel how that skin feels. It's a little rough and bumpy. It has a belly button. Yeah, you feel that? Smell it. Maybe even use your fingernail to kind of scratch it a little bit so you get a better sniff. Let that amazing odor just permeate you all the way through as you breathe and inhale it in. That smell is God. His spirit is life. Now, if you so choose, dig into it with your fingernail a little further. Pull off some of that pee. We'll run around and clean up afterwards if you happen to drop something. If you drop the whole orange, you'll end up down front, so that's what takes you with it. Just feel that smell. This is spirit. This is God for us, as us, in us, showing up. See, the thing about pleasure is it requires us to be fully present in the moment. You can't do pleasure in the future or the past. You can remember it, you can anticipate it, but you don't get to do it except in the moment. If you want to go ahead and clean up later, pull it apart a little bit. Taste it. And you don't like oranges, I'm sorry, I apologize. Imagine whatever other thing you would prefer. Pull it apart. Taste it. If you're sitting with somebody you care about, offer them a slice. Receive and give. Pleasure is about the flow. It's not a static thing. You receive it, you give it. Yeah. And as you receive it, realize that this is the energy and person offering you something really juicy, really wonderful, really delightful. And so keep your attention focused on really bringing that in and feeling it and knowing it and recognizing the goodness of it. I used to live in Central Florida, and near Orlando, where there were orange processing plants. And then one time of the year we would get the orange blossoms, and you could smell it in the air everywhere you went. And it was like, oh my goodness, it was almost orgasmic. It was wonderful. And then another time of the year when they were processing orange juice, there were places that were burning large, huge piles of orange peels. And you get the burnt orange smell all through the atmosphere. And it was sensual, it was wonderful, it was kind of always made me thirsty for orange juice. It was pretty wonderful. So all of this is good. All of this is God. And when you find yourself questioning it, or pushing it away, or saying pleasure is wrong, look a little deeper and see if it's the pleasure that's wrong or a memory of the way it was used in your past. Look deeper and see, is it the pleasure that's wrong or some preconceived notion that you have about being out of control? You ever hear you want too much? Can't want too much pleasure because God is limitless in His giving. It's all good and it's all God. Listen to what Ernest has to say, our founding teacher, minister. God has God has imparted our life to us, placing no limitation or condition that would restrict us. You are free to enjoy your pleasure, to express your pleasure. Other than this, our life must be lived constructively, in unity. That means we don't do things to one another that one another doesn't want. Constructively, in oneness, in love, and sympathy, which is synchronized feeling, sympathy with everything around us. If we expect to live it to the fullest, all of that has to play into it if we want to live to the fullest. I believe that every person is born to be creative, to live to the fullest, to be happy, to be glad, to be prosperous, and to be whole. Ernest Stone, Science of Mind textbook. That is the truth of you. That is the goodness of you, and it is available always, whether in sexuality or any other aspect of pleasure and joy and goodness. I invite you to appreciate it, because you really are wonderful, and so am I. So it is. Thank you. Now there will be wipes out front to help clean up stickiness, and anyone who wants to stick around and help you pick up orange peels is welcome. But that's kind of a cool thing. Join me, if you will, in a bit of meditation. Take a deep breath and let it go. And another. Feel the pleasure of air, of clean air. Of air filling your lungs. Anyone who's ever had a struggle with breath or breathing or asthma or any of those things knows the real preciousness of the air that we breathe, of being able to breathe. And as you settle into this moment, let your awareness fall into your body. Feel the chair that's holding you up as if it is, because it is, the very support and essence of spirit holding you in place while flying through the universe at unbelievable speeds. You feel your heartbeat. Recognize that is the flow of love through you in physical form. Feel the warmth of the person sitting next to you or near you. Or you may feel the energetic presence of all of us here in the room. That is for our pleasure as well. It is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, and that is the kingdom of life, of love. Remember the taste of the orange, or other wonderful pleasures. I know there is one power, and that power is not some abstract thing we talk about. It is the essence of the life flowing through us in this moment. It is the truth of our beating hearts, our breathing lungs, our feeling natures. It is the essence of who and what we are and what we are about. And as we recognize this truth within us, I recognize with deep reverence and respect that as I am an expression of the infinite, so is everyone I meet. Everyone I meet. Regardless of whatever judgments and other things I've carried, I'll let those go. And I stand in the truth that I am one with the infinite, and so is everyone else, and so are you. So I look at people as God's expressing rather than any other label. I look at life as unfolding and flowing through each of us with ease and grace and joy. I stand in gratitude that I live in a physical world, in a physical time and place. I'll be gone from it soon enough, and I came into it at the right time. I'll go out from it at the right time. But for here and now, I have the perfect vehicle to take me through it. A physical body that knows exactly how to function in this world. And I allow the greater wisdom within me to bring it forth in perfect health and perfect function and perfect interaction. I forgive and release any ideas of dislike of my physical self, any ideas of anger, resentment, withholding about who or what I am in any area of life. I choose instead to agree with the infinite in knowing that I am good and very good, and so is everyone else. So as I go from this place touching lives, having experiences of shared pleasure, shared joy, shared goodness, and conscious, intentional love. This I do with ease and freedom because it is my freedom to do this. It is my birthright. And I accept that birthright with joy, with silliness, with happiness. I let this be the truth for me because it is my truth. I let it be, and so it is. Deep breath. Come back. So, this is a time when we celebrate circulation. Another physical part of our bodies. We circulate. We have stuff circulating all the time. And we circulate prosperity through this organization. Organization, opportunities for spirit to circulate prosperity and wealth and love. And prosperity is just another word for the flow of the love of God itself, or spirit itself, or life itself. So we're about to do that. I invite you to circulate goodness, whether you have anything physically to put in the plate or not. Take a moment as it passes by you and put some good intention. Don't put your orange peel, please. Put some other good intention into the basket, knowing that it is accepted by Spirit and multiplied abundantly many, many times over. Join me, if you will, in reading the affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance, as I freely and joyfully